At 32, I thought I had it all. CEO of a multi-million-dollar tech company, a sleek penthouse overlooking the city, and a name that commanded respect in every boardroom. My life was a meticulously curated success story, built on logic, ambition, and a relentless work ethic. Emotions were a liability, a messy variable I'd long since learned to control. Love, family. Those were chapters I had bookmarked for later, a distant, undefined future that seemed less appealing than my next quarterly earnings report. Then came David. He was the brilliant new creative director I'd personally headhunted, a rising star with a portfolio that could make even the most jaded executive sit up and take notice. He was a single dad, a fact he'd mentioned casually during his final interview. I'd noted it, filed it away as an irrelevant piece of personal data, and moved on. The only thing that mattered was his talent, and he had it in spades. Our first major project launch was a pressure cooker. Weeks blurred into a haze of late nights, endless meetings, and take-out containers littering my pristine office. David was my right hand, a calming presence amidst the chaos, his creative genius matched only by his unwavering professionalism. I was impressed, more than impressed. There was an ease to him, a warmth that I found intriguing. I told myself it was just professional admiration. One grueling Saturday, with the launch just days away, David had a childcare emergency. His sitter had cancelled last minute. I was about to suggest he work from home when he hesitated. "Eleanor," he said, his voice strained, "I hate to ask, but would it be okay if my daughter, Lily, came to the office for a few hours? She's 5, quiet as a mouse, I promise. She can just color in the corner. I just can't leave her alone. A child, in my office, my minimalist, steel and glass sanctuary." My first instinct was a hard no. It was unprofessional, a distraction we couldn't afford. But looking at the sheer exhaustion in David's eyes, I found myself saying, "Of course. Bring her in." I was as surprised as he was. An hour later, a tiny whirlwind with bright pigtails and a backpack shaped like a unicorn entered my world. This was Lily. She clutched a coloring book and a fistful of crayons, her big, brown eyes wide with wonder as she surveyed my office. David set her up in a quiet corner, and for a while, the only sound was the soft scratch of crayon on paper. I was on a tense conference call, pacing my office as I negotiated with a difficult vendor, when I felt a small tug on my blazer. I looked down. It was Lily, holding up a drawing. It was a wobbly, crayon-scrawled portrait of a woman with a crown. "It's for you," she whispered, her voice a tiny bell. I smiled, a genuine, unplanned smile. "Thank you, Lily. It's beautiful," she beamed. Then she said the word that would tilt my world on its axis. "You're welcome, Mommy." The conference call faded into white noise. I stared at her, my heart hammering against my ribs. "What did you say, sweetie?" "Mommy," she repeated, with the simple certainty of a child. David, who had been engrossed in his work, rushed over, his face flushed with embarrassment. "Lily, no. I am so sorry, Eleanor." She sometimes gets confused. Her mom passed away a few years ago. You look a little like her. The pictures I have, anyway." I looked from David's panicked face to Lily's innocent one. "It's okay," I managed to say, my voice sounding foreign to my own ears. "It's okay." But it wasn't okay. The word echoed in my mind for the rest of the day. Mommy, a word that had no place in my vocabulary, in my life. It was a ghost from a past I had buried so deep I'd convinced myself it never existed. That night, for the first time in years, I didn't work. I went home and opened a dusty, lacquered box hidden at the back of my closet. Inside, beneath layers of forgotten memorabilia, was a single, faded photograph. It was of a young woman with a radiant smile, cradling a newborn baby. The woman was me, 27 years old. The story was a secret I had carried like a stone. A whirlwind college romance, an unexpected pregnancy, and a choice. The baby's father, my first and only love, had been killed in a car accident just weeks before our daughter was born. I was alone, terrified, and broke. The grief and the weight of responsibility were crushing me. I made the hardest decision of my life. I gave my baby up for adoption, believing she deserved a life with 2 loving parents, a life better than what I, a grieving, penniless student, could offer. I'd signed the papers, walked away, and built my fortress of success around the hollow space she left behind. I had told myself it was the ultimate act of love. The adoption was closed. All I knew was her name, Sarah, and that she'd gone to a wonderful family. Over the years, the sharp pain had dulled to a constant, low-grade ache I'd learned to ignore. Could it be? The thought was insane. A 1 in a billion coincidence. Lily, Sarah, the resemblance David mentioned. It was impossible, and yet, my hands trembled as I pulled up David's employee file on my laptop. It was a gross invasion of privacy, an ethical line I'd never dreamed of crossing, but I had to know. My eyes scanned the page, searching for any clue, and there it was. Under spousal information, Sarah Miller, deceased, Miller, my last name. The name I'd had before I changed it, before I reinvented myself as Aylin Vance. The name on my daughter's original birth certificate. The world stopped spinning. It crashed. David had married my daughter, my Sarah, and Lily. Lily was my granddaughter. The next morning, I called David into my office. My palms were sweating. My carefully constructed composure was gone, replaced by a raw, terrifying vulnerability. I closed the door. David, I started, my voice shaking. I need to tell you something. And I need you to just listen. It's going to sound crazy. I told him everything. I showed him the photograph. I watched his face shift from confusion to disbelief, and finally, to stunned comprehension. The pieces clicked into place for him. His wife Sarah had been adopted. She'd always wondered about her birth mother. She'd even mentioned her birth mother's last name was Miller, the same as his. It had been a funny little coincidence they'd laughed about. He showed me a picture of Sarah on his phone. It was like looking at a younger version of myself. The same eyes, the same smile, my daughter. Tears streamed down both our faces. There were no words for the cosmic, heartbreaking, beautiful tragedy of it all. I had missed my daughter's entire life. I had missed her wedding. I would never get to tell her I was sorry, that I loved her, that I thought of her every single day. But fate, in its impossibly cruel and kind way, had brought me her legacy. It had brought me Lily. That evening, I didn't go back to my empty penthouse. I went to David's cozy, slightly messy apartment. Lily ran to the door when I arrived. This time, when she wrapped her little arms around my legs and shouted, "Mommy." It wasn't a mistake. It felt like coming home. David corrected her gently, "Not Mommy, sweetie. This is Grandma." Lily looked up at me, her head tilted. "Grandma." She tested the word. I knelt down, my heart so full it felt like it might burst. "Yes," I whispered, my voice thick with unshed tears. "I'm your grandma." She grinned, a wide, joyful, toothy grin that was all Sarah. "Grandma." She cheered and hugged me again. My life didn't magically become simple. There was grief to process, a lost past to mourn, and a complex new family dynamic to navigate. But the fortress I had built around my heart had crumbled, and in its place, something new was growing. My meticulous plans and quarterly reports suddenly seemed so small. My definition of success had been completely rewritten. It wasn't about boardrooms and bottom lines anymore. It was about crayon drawings on my fridge, unicorn backpacks, and the beautiful, unconditional love of a little girl who saw her mother's eyes in mine. I had lost a daughter, but I had found my granddaughter. I had found my family. And for the first time in a very long time, I felt truly, completely whole. Thank you for listening to my story. If you were moved, please like and subscribe for more.